This video is going to be about the strategy you should have for your UPSC एग्जाम। अब आपने सिलेबस समझ लिया, एग्जाम पैटर्न समझ लिया। अब इसके बाद इसको इम्प्लीमेंट कैसे करेंगे अपनी पढ़ाई में, उसके लिए आज यहाँ पे हम तीन चीज़ें कवर करेंगे। सबसे पहले प्रिपरेशन स्टाइल, फिर क्वेश्चन क्वेश्चन समझने का तरीका, एंड थर्ड होगा आंसर समझने का तरीका। ठीक है, यहाँ पर तीनों को मैं कलर कर देता हूँ। सबसे पहले हम बात करेंगे प्रिपरेशन की, फिर हम बात करेंगे क्वेश्चन अंडरस्टैंडिंग की, उसके बाद हम देखेंगे आंसर राइटिंग कैसे करनी। लेट्स स्टार्ट विद द प्रिपरेशन। यहाँ पे सबसे ज़रूरी जो चीज़ आती है वो है आपका प्रिपरेशन का एक अप्रोच है, उसको कह सकता हूँ। आई वुड लाइक टू कॉल इट लाइक अ प्रिपरेशन आइसबर्ग। दिस इज योर आइसबर्ग। जैसे हम बोलते हैं ना कि अगर किसी ने ओलंपिक्स में कोई मेडल जीता है, हमको बस वो टाइम दिखता है जब उसने मेडल मिल रहा होता है उसे, बट उसके सालों की मेहनत हमको तब नहीं दिखती है। उसी हिसाब से आप ये समझो कि एक ये आइसबर्ग है पानी में। आपका ये एग्जामिनर है और उसे वहां पर क्या दिखेगा, जो अपने आंसर्स लिखे हुए हैं। एग्जामिनर को उसके अलावा और कुछ नहीं दिखेगा। आपने कितने घंटे पढ़ा है, क्या पढ़ा है, कितने नोट्स बनाए हैं, कुछ मैटर नहीं करता। जो मैटर करेगा वो है आपका बस आंसर राइटिंग। आपके आंसर्स मेंस में कैसे हैं। प्रीलिम्स की तो तैयारी करनी भी नहीं होती, उसके बारे में आप अलग से पढ़ सकते हो, क्या थ्योरी है वो। प्रीलिम्स इज अ रिजेक्शन एग्जामिनेशन, इट इज जस्ट टू वीड आउट द पीपल, बट द मेन एग्जामिनेशन इज योर मेंस। इट्स called mains for a reason, right? Now, before you can write answers, you need to prepare your knowledge base. Your knowledge base will have a static information which you'll study as per the syllabus, and then a current information which you'll study from current affairs, embedding into your syllabus pattern. And this knowledge base will be based on a certain depth. You'll get this depth by understanding the previous year questions. So you'll always go back and forth. What type of questions are asked, how much you have to study, how deep and how broad you have to study a subject from the entire subject, right? And then you'll make sure that you tie everything back to your syllabus. So at the core is your understanding of your syllabus, then your understanding of your previous year questions, building your static knowledge, current knowledge on top of it, and finally showing that in your answer writing. So this I call as the iceberg principle, the iceberg theory for the preparation. It's very important to keep all of this in mind. Otherwise, what can happen is while you're studying something, you can spend so much time deep into it without thinking about the syllabus, without looking at the questions in detail, and it won't make for a significant chunk of your answer writing. So to practice answer writing, practice speed of answer writing, keep updating your knowledge base, keep referring to the previous year questions, and focus on the syllabus. Now, how do we do this? This is one step after the syllabus. We looked at syllabus in the last videos. Previous year questions is something that you have to do on your own. It's available everywhere. There is nothing to be taught here or to share in insights. It's just questions and answers and the pattern. We will come to the answer writing. We have some insights, and the knowledge base is something that we build over time. This can't be done in a day. But how to actually link all of this, these threads, this we can do through a small uh, insight, I would say. So this is our syllabus. These are the printed ones that I just showed in the last videos. What you have to do is take, don't make separate notes or don't have infinite notes. We know the exam weightages between different subjects, right? We understand how much each of them are important, of each of these lines are important. We know their weightage. Make your notes in the same ratio. You cannot apply a depth first approach. No, you need to apply a breadth based approach. So, what I'm saying is take one notebook, suppose it has 500 pages. Divide this notebook into equal sections of essay, GS 1 to 4, and your optional 1 and 2. So, you have 7 sections of the notebook. Maybe take 33 pages per section. You get 241 pages, 9 pages. Can be your index, additional, etc. Now 241 pages are divided into each section, and within each section of 33 pages, keep one page as your syllabus guide, so that whenever you're preparing, don't go away from syllabus, and the next 32 pages are your actual notes. Don't limit here. Within these 32 pages, for example, if you look at paper 2, which is GS1, Indian history, ancient history, society, geography. These are the 4 sections, and you know their relative weightages of each of the 4, divided into the same. Divide this into history, society, geography, and if there are further sections, there are actually heritage as well. So you'll have Indian heritage, and this is not required. So you have maybe I have the count here. Let me just pull it out. So you'll have 6 pages for heritage, you'll have 3 pages for modern history, 1 page for post-independence history, and 1 page for world history. Then for society, you will have 8 pages. For geography, you'll have 13 pages. So even when you're preparing, you'll know what is the relative weightage. If you're studying for 1 page, if you're studying for 8 pages, and 8 out of 500, actually 241, but let's just call it 500 for now. You know how much percentage you're covering. Real time, when you're finishing your notebook, you will, out of these 500 pages, you can see how much you have covered. So what we have done is we took one exam, 1 page of exam pattern, we converted into 4 pages of exam syllabus. Now we are converting into 500 pages of exam notes. Don't make 1,000 pages of notes, 2,000 pages. Study from everywhere. Summarize it, keep it into 1 page. This is your top-down approach. With this approach, you will never go away from your path. You will be always on the right target. And let's not stop here. Within, uh, let's say, geography, we know that there are 3 different sections. There are silent features of world physical geography. This you covered in the previous videos. We have distribution, we have phenomena. Divide this geography into 3 then. You have physical geography, you have distributions, and you have phenomena or processes. So these 13 can be further divided into these 3. Again, don't limit it here. Within distribution, you know what distributions are required. Divide the page into sub-pages. Within a 1 page, make divisions. Write the heading already. The notes can come in later. So you know what is the structure, and it is limited. So this is all I wanted to talk about in the preparation step. What to prepare, how to prepare. Now the next thing to understand is the questions. How do you make sense of a question and how do you decode it? It is a 4-part process. First, you will start with the background, all the syllabus that we have studied. You relate your question to which part it is coming from. You mention it into the introduction of your answer. Then you'll go back to the questions underlying the important parts that gives you your focus point. This is where the answer has to be focused on, and most of your words have to be based on. For a 10-mark question, it's 150. For 20 marks, for 15-mark question, it's 250 words, 3 pages, and for 10 marks, it's 2 pages. Now it's very important to answer what is being asked instead of what you know. It's और ये बहुत आसान होता है कि आपने बहुत पढ़ा है तो आप उस चीज़ पे जाओ. वैसा नहीं करना है, हिंटेड फ्लो पे फोकस करना है, उस फ्लो को बना के रखना है, जो एग्जामिनर पूछना चाहता है उसका जवाब देना है, और फाइनली क्वेश्चन वर्ड आपको ये सारे बाकी 3 पॉइंट्स डिकोड करने में हेल्प करेगा। इन क्वेश्चन वर्ड्स को हम आगे अभी देखेंगे अच्छे से, क्या डिफरेंट वर्ड्स होते हैं और उनमें क्या पूछा गया होता है। Just summarizing again, background will come from your syllabus area. Focus point will be based on the main part of your answer, and it will come from the topics that you have studied from the syllabus. The hinted flow will be based on different flow diagrams and structures that you see in the exam pattern, and that is what the examiner is expecting, as we were discussing. And finally, the question words are of different types. We will also cover them in detail to understand whether to differentiate between things, whether to distinguish one thing from others, whether to elucidate a point, or how to answer critically. This will essentially define your scope of the answer, of what has to be added and what has to be removed. अब देख लेते हैं डिफरेंट क्वेश्चन टाइप्स को, हर वर्ड का क्या मतलब होता है, एग्जामिनर आपसे क्या पूछने की कोशिश कर रहा है। ठीक है, इसमें we'll try to draw little iconography for each of them. Discuss is where you have to define both the pros and the cons of the point at hand, and then it has to be based on facts, not on your opinions, and you have to give a conclusion. Second, you have uh, define or describe. Here you take one focus of the question of what it is asking you to describe and give different dimensions to it from different angles. You can, easier way to do this is based on your exam syllabus itself. Next is distinguish. यहाँ पर आप एक आइटम को लेते हैं and you separate it from the others. Distinguish is not usually between just two, it is between one versus many. Next you have differentiate. Distinguishing is where you are just showing the how one thing is separate from others, but within differentiate, usually you have to give different dimensions of the differentiation, the different dimensions on which it is distinguished. So it is usually done in a tabular form. Next is examine. Examine is when you are asked to put the thing under a lens to it is usually done, examine is usually done critically, so you have to do it based on facts, and then you have to look at the positives and the negatives, and then you have to define a way forward or give a conclusion. Examination is where you look at plus and minus and mostly you give a way forward. Then is an enumerate. Enumerate simply means to give a list. इसमें हर एक इसमें आपको आंसर में लिस्ट देके एंड में कंक्लूजन देना है। एक्सप्लेन, एक्सप्लेन में आपको अलग अलग एंगल्स देने हैं अबाउट द 5 Ws, वाई, हाउ, फॉर व्हाट, उसको सिंप्लीफाई करना है। इट कैन बी लाइक एक्सप्लेन मॉनसून्स, क्यों होता है, कैसे होता है, कब होता है, कहाँ होता है, simple language. Elucidate. Elucidate is when you give examples of something. You're not trying to explain it by theory. You are giving a lot of examples to elucidate it. So यहाँ पे आपको you have to elucidate the truth of that particular thing with different examples. Example 1, 2, and 3, and so on. And all of those should help understand the particular thing at hand. Evaluate. Now, evaluate is not based on your opinion only. It is also based on facts. You have to give a reasoned assessment. When you are asked to evaluate something, it is different from examining something. You have to evaluate based on facts and what is the evidence. When you're examining, you're looking at the plus minus of those things and a way forward. Here, you're not really asking for a way forward, we're just asking to evaluate something, whether it is true or false. And then next is the analysis. Within analysis, it's like analyze something. Here you look for the keywords in the question and explain each of these keywords. So संधि विच्छेद की तरह एनालाइज कर रहे हो आप उसको, हर एक को एक्सप्लेन करो, हर एक टर्म को ये समझाओ कि वो कैसे एक दूसरे से रिलेटेड है। वो आपका हो गया एनालिसिस। एनालिसिस में आपको एक स्टेटमेंट दी जाएगी जिसको आपको एनालाइज करना है। नेक्स्ट आ जाते हैं कमेंट। Comment or express your opinion or views is based on a slightly subjective answer style, but still don't make it completely personal. You have to again make it based on your facts and different evidences and reports and data points and जो भी आपको तथ्य मिले इसके लिए, ठीक है। Now, critically is a phrase that can be used in any of these questions. It just means that you have to look at both the positives and the negatives of this, and you have to create a balance. Or if it is 70-30 for some answers, you have to give that angle. All right. Finally, we come to the third section of the strategy, which is your answer writing skill. अब इसमें कुछ फ्लोचार्ट बना के ज़्यादा तो कुछ एक्सप्लेन नहीं किया जा सकता, बस ये है कि पॉइंटर दे सकते हैं, बाकी आएगा प्रैक्टिस से ही। तीन पार्ट आंसर के, स्ट्रक्चर, कंटेंट एंड प्रेजेंटेशन। कंटेंट सबसे ज़रूरी है, फिर आपके स्ट्रक्चर, फिर आपकी प्रेजेंटेशन। स्ट्रक्चर के अंदर आप देख सकते हो कि किस तरह से आपने उसका लेआउट रखा है। इंट्रोडक्शन हो गया जो आपके बैकग्राउंड से आया था, वेटेड पॉइंट्स हो गए जो आपके मेन फोकस से आए थे, कंक्लूजन और वे फॉरवर्ड जो आप एग्जामिनर ने जो आपको हिंटेड फ्लो दिया है, प्लस जो आपको एक क्वेश्चन का जो वर्ड मिला है उसको मिला के आप वो बनाओगे, ठीक है। So this can be mapped to your question that we were looking at. And obviously, this is not very one-to-one mapping. There is a lot of gray areas here. Weighted parts will also have your hinted flow part of it. Conclusion will come from your focus points as a reiteration as well. So it is not one-to-one. Content. Content में चार चीजें आ गई. What is the information you have given? How you defined things? क्या आपने facts लिखे हैं और क्या आपके arguments? The difference between facts and arguments is that facts are established truths, arguments are given in support or against something, and they might be facts, they might be data points, they might be evidences, etc. But now these can be based on different dimensions. What are those dimensions? They can be your um, also further categorized in three different things. Usually we just look at aspects, but there is a dimension of question, word, and stakeholder as well. The dimension of this aspect is just based on your syllabus pattern. Start from GS1, history, culture, geography, society, social. GS2, political, international. Start with GS3, economic angle, right? Weaker sections angles. That is also part of the stakeholders. Women, children, specially abled, reserved, senior citizens, veterans, etc. These are different parts of a community. And next, finally, is the presentation section. This is the fun part. You can spend 5-10 minutes of your examination after you're done answer writing, after you're done structuring into making it presentable, सुंदर बनाना. Flowchart use करो, diagrams use करो, maps बनाओ, Venn diagram बनाओ, mental models बनाओ, mind maps बनाओ, ठीक है. You can draw different types of charts to explain ratios, to explain trends, to explain differences. You can quote facts and statistics that you remember, or if you don't remember, based on your estimates, you can quote government schemes, you can quote constitutional references, differences between articles, acts, amendments, bills, quote the right way. You can quote Supreme Court judgments, which are precedents in a lot of cases, right? And within reports, it's also not just limited to Indian government. Use international organizations, use committees, use commissions. So all of this goes into your presentation. The way you have it, presentation does not necessarily mean drawing lines and making stars and just decorations. Presentation means the way things have been laid out, right? So it also is important to use keywords and definitions, which also goes into your content. But the way you have added, like definitions can be given in boxes, you know. So overall, we have covered all three of them. We first looked at the preparation, then we looked at the questions, and then we looked at the answer writing. This covers the strategy. The most important part of the strategy, I feel, is still about how you make your notebook, how you look at the syllabus within the iceberg, and then how you actually practice your question and answer writing. So that part 2 and part 3 were specifically based on this because this is the most important part, and this can only happen when you focus on your preparation, which is your part 1. All right. With this, we will end the examination pattern, syllabus, and strategy videos. There is not a point to spend so much time on strategy and not doing the right things. From now on, the videos will be actually based on this syllabus and what each of these terms are, what each of these lines are. So ultimately, we have to cover the 100% of the syllabus. This can only happen if we start from 1% and take our journey all the way to 100. And this will happen in stages in all the papers in terms of the iceberg. I hope this video explained you the approach to UPSC. It doesn't have to be, there is no Ramban. It has to be a lot of hard work and consistency, of course. But all of this is useless if your strategy is not there. So having the strategy in the first place is important, and then executing it is second. But ultimately, this is where most of your time will be spent, around 99% of your time. 1% is your strategy, but this 1% defines your 99% of the direction. I hope this was helpful, and with this, we will end it here.